All right, so here we have the input and output notation is given for two functions. Determine whether the pair of functions can be combined by function composition. So we're doing composition now. If so, then draw an input-output diagram for the new function and then write a statement for the new function complete with function notation and input-output units and descriptions. All right, so first one is we're doing computer chips. So it says the profit generated by the sale of C computer chips is P of C, okay? The number of computer chips a manufacturer produces during T hours of a production is C of T. All right, well, how is that going to work? Well, it looks like we're going to put in T hours and we're going to produce basically C of T chips. And then we're going to, those C of T chips, we're going to sell. And so we can plug that C into here and we're going to get then our profit. So it looks like everything will work. And so what it's going to do, what are we going to have? Well, we're going to have this big input because we have a couple things in there. We're going to have this composition when we get done. So we're going to plug in T hours. That's going to be our input. What are we getting out? We're going to get out basically our profit. And but what our profit said is we have P of C. Well, then we also have of T. So we're going to have P of C of T, okay? And that's going to be our profit in dollars, probably. It doesn't say it's going to be in, yeah, it's just dollars. It doesn't say millions of dollars. So now what are we going to do? Well, we're going to plug in T into our first part here, and that's going to be our C, because we're going to plug in T into the C. And then we're going to take that C, and it's going to be now C of T, and we're going to plug that into what? Well, our P, okay? And then what happens is, then that comes out as P of C of T dollars. All right. So now the question says, write a statement for the new function complete with function notation and input output units and description. Well, basically, we're just going to have P of C of T, and that's going to be dollars. Now, if we wanted to write it the fancy way, P of C and then of T dollars, we could do that as well. And so that's not going to be a problem, and that's going to be actually, yeah, P of C of T. Okay, so that's not going to be an issue either way. So you can do, the P of C or P of C of T dollars that way. Okay, and so that one does work as far as inputting it into C, taking that C, inputting it into P, and then our output is P of C of T. All right, what about soccer uniforms? All right, well, it says the revenue from the sale of X soccer uniforms is R of X. So we're plugging X into R and getting out our revenue. And then the dollar value of yen in of R yen is D of R dollars. So it looks like what we're doing is we're plugging X into R, then we're plugging R into D, and we're getting out dollars. So that looks like it could work too. And so let's plug that into our thing. We're going to plug in X uniforms. And so again, we're going to have some big function here we're going to work on. And so that's going to go into R. So that our first part here is R. And that gives us R of X. And now, so that gives us R of X, and that's yen. And then we're going to plug that into our function, D of R. So D, because we're going to plug R into D. Make sure it looks a little more like a D there. And what's coming out? Well, what's coming out is going to be D. Why do I keep writing a P? D, and then of R, and then that's of X. And that's going to be again in dollars. So we're plugging in X uniforms into R. We're going to get that many yen out. Then we're going to convert that yen into dollars. So we'll have D of R of X dollars. And so that would be one way to write it, or we could D of R of X dollars. So we're plugging in X uniforms, and that goes into the R, then out of that gets into the D, and we get our dollars out of there, okay? All right, so that's how we would do that one. And again, you kind of have to think about, what you plug into what. So we're plugging that into here to get the R, but we need R to get D, so then we'll take that R, plug into D, and then we get out our D of R of X dollars, okay? All right, so we'll pause there and we'll come back in a second.